You know, have you ever really thought about the idea of unseen guardians? There's this one single verse in the Quran that describes a pretty fascinating system of divine protection, and it involves angels watching over us in shifts. But how does that actually work? Especially when you start to look closely and realize it seems to present this deep, logical puzzle. Well, today, we're going to do a deep dive, a forensic analysis, to really unpack the layers of this concept. Let's get into it. Okay, so this is it. This is the verse right at the heart of our whole analysis, from Surah Ar-Raʿd. It talks about successive angels who guard us, but I want you to pay close attention to that last little phrase, by the command of Allah. Now, on the surface, that sounds pretty straightforward, right? But as we're about to see, it creates this incredible theological puzzle, and we're going to solve it by looking at the classical explanations. All right, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the verse itself. Then we'll get into the difference between protecting a person versus just recording their deeds. From there, we'll tackle the main paradox head-on and resolve it by understanding two different types of divine decree. And finally, we'll see how it all clicks together into one complete system of preservation. So first things first, let's break down the key terminology here. The verse uses a really specific word to describe these angels, and its meaning is actually the first big clue to understanding what they do. The Arabic word used right here is mu'aqibat, and what it literally means is those who follow one after another. So the commentary explains, this isn't just one static group of angels. Oh no, it's more like multiple teams working in relays and shifts. You have one group that guards you during the day, and then a completely different group takes over for the night shift. The big takeaway here is their constant, uninterrupted presence. So this idea of constant protection leads us to a really crucial question. The Quran talks about angels having all sorts of different jobs. So when this verse talks about protection, what are we actually talking about? Is it our physical bodies, or is it a record of our actions? And listen, this isn't just some minor detail. It's absolutely fundamental. Are these angels acting as bodyguards, shielding us from physical danger? Or are they more like scribes, just meticulously writing down everything we do for the day of judgment? The commentary makes a really clear and very important distinction. So the mu'aqibat fall squarely into that first category. Their specific assignment is the preservation, the hifz, of a person's physical body. They're there to guard against accidents, against potential disasters, but there's a critical little note in the commentaries. They protect from things not definitively decreed. Now, I want you to remember that phrase, because it is the key to this entire thing. Now, this is a sharp contrast to that other group of angels you've probably heard of, the Kiramon Katibin, the noble scribes. Their job is completely different. They are not bodyguards at all. They are celestial recorders. They don't intervene, they don't protect. Their entire purpose is accountability, to create this perfect, totally impartial record of our lives. So, this chart just lays it out perfectly. On one side, you have the mu'aqibat, the guardians. Their focus is protecting the physical person from harm. And on the other side, you have the kiraman katibin, the scribes. Their focus is recording actions for accountability. Our verse today is exclusively about that first group, the guardians. All right, so understanding that distinction brings us face to face with the intellectual heart of this whole topic, a logical paradox that seems almost inescapable, and it's been the subject of some really deep scholarly thinking. So here's the puzzle. The verse says the angels protect the person by the command of Allah. But if you think about it, anything that happens, any calamity, also happens ultimately by God's command or will. So what are the angels protecting the person from? How can they protect you from a calamity that also comes from God's command if they're also acting on God's command? To put it plainly, there's the contradiction. It seems to pit God's will against itself. It's sort of like saying the king's guards are here to protect you from the king's own orders. It just doesn't quite add up. So how do we make sense of this? Well, the answer isn't to change the verse, but to go deeper in our understanding of what God's command really means. So, how is this puzzle solved? The solution that the classical commentators offer is it's elegant and it's profound. It all hinges on this idea that divine decree isn't just one single monolithic thing. There are actually different categories. And that is the absolute crucial point. The phrase command of Allah or decree of Allah can refer to totally different types of divine will. And once we get our heads around these different types, the paradox we've been talking about just completely dissolves. So the commentators distinguish between two main tiers of divine decree,
or called qada. The first one is called the qada hatmi, which is the definitive or absolute decree, and the second is the qada ghayr hatmi, which is the conditional or non-definitive decree. So let's look at that first one, the definitive decree, qada hatmi. This one is absolute. It is locked in, it's inevitable, it's unchangeable. When this type of decree is issued, let's say the exact moment of a person's death, no angel, no prayer, nothing in the universe can alter it. It is simply going to happen.
But now, here's the game changer, the conditional decree, qada ghayr hatmi. You can think of this as a decree that has a condition attached. It's written something like this: such and such will happen unless a certain condition is met. And this is the space where human action has a direct and powerful impact.
And the sources give us some really concrete examples. A negative event might be written down for someone, but it's a conditional decree. That decree can actually be averted or changed if the person performs certain actions, like a sincere prayer, dua, giving charity, sadaqah, or being kind to their family. Those actions fulfill the condition and literally change what was going to happen.
And that right there is the beautiful solution. The mu'aqabat, or guardian angels, operate entirely in the world of conditional decrees. They are commanded by God to protect a person from a calamity that was only decreed conditionally in the first place. So when that person prays, the angels are just the agents who carry out the protection part of that decree. They aren't fighting against God's will, they are executing a more complex and merciful part of it. And just like that, the paradox vanishes. Okay, so let's put all the pieces together. This isn't just about avoiding a contradiction in terms. What this reveals is a really beautiful, coherent system of divine governance, of mercy, and human agency, what the scholars call hifz, or preservation. So let's trace the whole system from start to finish. Step 1. A potential negative event is decreed, but it's written down as a conditional decree. Step 2. At the same time, God commands the guardian angels to protect that person. Step 3. The person using their own free will does a good deed, like prayer. This fulfills the condition that was built into the decree from the start. And finally, Step 4. The angel's protection works, the calamity is averted, and the whole thing unfolded exactly according to God's bigger, more intricate command.
So the most important thing to get here is this. Angelic protection is not a bug in the system. It's not a challenge to divine power. It is the system. It's the very mechanism that connects God's will with our actions, cause with effect, and decree with mercy. It paints a picture of a universe where our choices genuinely matter and can have real, tangible effects, all within the framework of God's ultimate plan.
And really, that brings us to our final thought. Instead of seeing our own actions and God's will as two separate, maybe even competing forces, this verse shows them as being deeply woven together. It suggests a dynamic relationship where our choices can actually unlock layers of divine mercy and protection. So, knowing this, how does seeing the world through this lens change the way we think about the real power of a single good deed?